Okay, let's move on to our last video for the day.
I just took out a loan for basic needs and food. Like, needs slash food. I have never in my life had to take out a loan for the things that my home needs. I said, there's no way. I cannot do this. I need to have a little bit more for gas, and I need to have enough food. So Affirm has, its thing with Sam's Club. I was like, fuck it. Let's just take out a loan for our basic needs. This is not okay. This is not okay. We're fucked.
Yeah, that's tough. And like, when you're backed up into a corner like that, and then you have like what seems like a saving grace of like, here's this loan you can take out, and like the terms are not favorable, but it's going to get you through the month. Like, same with credit cards, right? Like, you can put it on the credit card and it's going to deal with now. It's going to handle the situation now, and you can deal with it later.
Yeah. But this is how you get sucked into a cycle, because now you have a payment, an extra payment to pay off that loan, which is what you use to pay off or use to pay for like your necessities. So what's going to happen next month when you need the same necessities and things haven't changed? Like, are you going to do it again? I don't know. It's a messy cycle with people. And I know people are struggling just like the way that everything's like increased and stuff, but I don't know. It's hard for sure.
Yeah. I mean, on the other side of that, like at the same time, like I also know like the vast majority of people, especially Americans, like don't budget either.
100%.
They don't track their spending.
Yeah.
And so it's like, it's both sides of that, right? Like costs have gone up dramatically in the last few years. Like it is harder now. Like income hasn't risen at the same level as costs, but I also know people are not fully taking control of their income by creating a budget, by tracking all their spending, right? Like being very methodical with it. And like, dude, there's so many areas for things to fall between the cracks where if you're not really paying attention to those, like that's where the struggle becomes so much harder, because you feel like life's really crushing you, but it's a lot of the little choices like we talked about earlier, like those can make the world of a difference.
Yep. And I know there's people out there that really do struggle just to meet their basic needs. I'm not downplaying that, but the first thing whenever she started talking, I'm thinking, I'd love to see your bank statement just to see like where your money's actually going. Is it just for food and like your bills, like your utilities and stuff? Like, is there extra things here and there? Like, I'm just really curious. And I heard something. So after Black Friday sales and stuff, like they obviously had the numbers stuff and stuff rolling in. So a lot of people are talking about like the cost of eggs and how they can't afford groceries and stuff. But this year we again broke a record for Black Friday sales. So why is that still happening? Why are we buying all this stuff on Black Friday, but we can't afford our groceries? You know what I mean? So it makes you question things like that, like what's really going in and out of people's wallets. Like, I'm not trying to downplay it. I understand it's very tough for some people, but like you said, it's kind of the American way to just kind of like let your money come in and out, and you don't really know where it's going. And until you do, you're pretty surprised by where it's going,
Yeah. I mean, yeah, like you said, like Black Friday holiday shopping, that's on a rise. Like gambling, but sports betting is like one of the fastest growing betting markets like in the world today, right? Like all of these things where people are throwing away money doing things, like you see those numbers, and then you also hear the real stories, right? Like not to downplay them at all, real stories of people struggling, and it's like both of those things are true, but like I guarantee you, for anyone struggling, like there is waste that can be cut out, that can be put towards so that you can actually live a life that's a little less stressful, right? That could be going towards things like paying off credit card debt or building up an emergency fund. Because once you get ahead, that's when those little purchases start to matter less and less. But like when you're down in the hole, right? You're at a negative net worth because of your credit card debt or whatever. Those little purchases make all the difference in my eyes. Yeah.
And kind of a side note to this whole thing, like kind of getting off topic, but I saw a video the other day about America's like overconsumption problem and how like so many Americans have like 40 Stanley mugs and like all this stuff. And like, we just love purchasing stuff. We love TJ Maxx and Home Goods and all that junk you can get in there, and I'm like, I don't know, this all feeds into it too. It's just like the problem we have in this country. And someone, an international person messaged me back and was like, yeah, I hate to say this, but that's very true about America. And I was like, sometimes I'm embarrassed to be an American for that reason. But it just got me thinking about that. Cause like, are we purchasing things that are like good for us? Or is it just like, because we want to go out and have fun and get another Stanley Cup? You know what I mean? So yeah.
shopping's another one of those things like gambling, like alcohol, like you can easily become addicted to, because it's not so much the thing you're doing. It's just, it's the mental high you get from doing it, that's what people chase. Absolutely. And when you go and you buy something new, right? Like that newness feels so good until it wears off like 2 days later. Right. And then you're like left wondering, why did I buy this thing? But
yeah, that's one thing I never really had a shopping problem or anything like that. But when I started my debt-free journey, like I kind of fell into like minimalism and like realized that like life is so much more than just like the stuff you're bringing in, the clothes you wear and everything like that. So I really started focusing on the experiences in life and people rather than like the material possessions. Ever since that clicked in my brain, I've been so good with like, I don't have a Stanley mug. I don't care about that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Like I can drink my water out of this cup. It's the same thing, you know? So when I disconnected all of that, that's whenever like my money situation, like skyrocketed, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I like nice things, but I also am okay with those nice things being from cheap brands. Like we shop at Marshall's all the time and Ross, like there's so much stuff that's discounted there. It's so much cheaper to shop there. And like, I have zero shame about it. Or like all my clothes are from like Target and Costco, right? And Ross, right? Like it looks nice if you find the right stuff, and like it's a fraction of the cost. But like I was talking to someone on Instagram about this, how like when my wife and I, like when we first started dating, this was years ago, like I was definitely more of the spender and she's always been a saver. And like the nice thing is we've balanced each other out. And I feel like, you know, oftentimes people will attract like their opposite to each other. And I think the goal is to balance each other out, right? Because I mean, being a saver is amazing, but I do think you need to spend a little money on yourself once you're in a good position. But I feel like really developed an appreciation and like an excitement for becoming a saver, right? Like I know I'm still a spender at heart. Like if I find an excuse to spend money, like I will indulge, but I love saving now, right? And so I think you can find ways to like balance yourselves out.
Yeah, agreed. The information, opinions, and recommendations provided on this podcast are for entertainment purposes only and do not constitute professional financial advice. Any financial decisions you make based on the content of this podcast are your responsibility. We strongly recommend consulting with a licensed financial advisor or other qualified professional before making any significant financial decisions. By listening to this podcast, you acknowledge that we are not liable for any financial outcomes.